All right, welcome to Introduction to Biblical Greek. This is the introductory course to the New Testament Biblical Greek. This will be the beginning of the first semester, and we will be offering 4 semesters of Biblical Greek. So you are beginning the introductory portion of it. So we'll be covering a lot of the basics to help us understand the biblical Greek language. And so I am excited about you taking the course and your desire to take the course. As I have shared with many of my students, is that the main objective is not only to learn the Greek language, but by means of learning the Greek language, we understand the Word of God better. And as a result of that, we know the person of Jesus Christ more effectively and more thoroughly, whether we are studying the Old Testament or the New Testament. My name is Glen Trundle. I'm a professor of New Testament Greek at Covington Theological Seminary. And again, welcome to this class, and looking forward to sharing with you the language, the Greek language. We will be using the textbook by John H. Dobson. John H. Dobson. And it says Learn New Testament Greek. And this gentleman uses an interesting approach on how to introduce the Greek language and to learn the Greek language. He introduces the approach of how we typically learn languages, such as our own language, English. Many of you are aware that you were speaking English long before you knew anything about nouns and verbs and pronouns and participles and tenses and persons and that sort of thing. And so he takes the same approach. And he takes the approach, instead of memorizing grammatical rules, that you take the approach of recognizing the words and recognizing how they're used. And then he slowly but effectively introduces the grammar as we proceed through the textbook. This textbook will be used for 4 semesters. We will take about 12 chapters each semester and work through it. That is even paced. The reason why we don't rush through this particular grammar book in 2 semesters is because it is also very heavy in translation. It gets the student translating quickly, as opposed to a lot of Greek offerings in many colleges and universities, where you spend 2 semesters learning the grammar, and then you spend the 3rd and the 4th semester doing a lot of translating. This gentleman introduces us to the concept of translating from Greek into English very rapidly in the course. The thing that will excite you, the same thing that excites me about the Greek language or using this textbook, is that it gets you into the New Testament very quickly. And so you can't get through the first lesson without getting into the first verse in St. John, which is exciting to look at in the Greek language. He has also, this gentleman is not only a Greek scholar, but he's also a Hebrew scholar. And he has also written a similar text about the Hebrew language. Personally, I'm going through this textbook as well to learn the Hebrew language, and so I just wanted you to know that he has written both. So if you want to take Hebrew in the future, more than likely we will probably be using this textbook when we do take the class. What I want to do in this first session, before we get into the Greek language, I want to talk about the nature of the class. I have several notes here. You will see it posted online. That will be there for your review, and we will go over that in this first session, so that we understand what the expectation is, the class, what the nature of it is. So that's what we'll be doing. What we will do now is pause for a word of prayer, and then after that I'll introduce myself, my background. And unfortunately, I can't let you do that because you're watching this online. Okay? And so we'll do that, and then we'll go through the nature of the class, and then after we finish that, then we'll start looking at the textbook itself. Okay? All right, let's pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you for the fact that you are God, that you are our Creator. And Lord, that you have planted within us a desire to learn New Testament Greek. Not so that we can become Greek scholars or that we can be looked upon as Greek scholars, but so that we can share the gospel message more effectively, to be able to teach it and to preach it and to share it, and the excitement that is there. Lord, we pray for peace. We pray for our minds to be open and allowed to learn this language to your honor and to your glory. And it's in your precious name we pray. Amen. All right. Again, my name is Glen Trundle. I have taught 2 semesters of Greek here at Covington Theological Seminary. My background is about 2008 I received a doctor's degree in theology from Covington. And then I have a Master of Ministry from Covington Theological Seminary, and also have a Bachelor of Arts degree from Tennessee Temple University. It is at Tennessee Temple where I received my Greek training. I am currently enrolled at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel, to become certified to teach the Hebrew language. I hope to be able to start that for the seminary fall of next year. My background, I've been a business consultant for about 35 years. I was an accountant and a consultant for about 35 years. I am now retired, effective this month. So I'm retired but working as a professor. So it's something that I really enjoy doing, so we'll have a lot of fun with it. Now, what I want to talk about for a few minutes is the nature of the class, because so many students will take a foreign language. They will look into the textbook and look at all the strange structure of the words and so forth, and very quickly become intimidated. What I want to do is spend a little time right now with you to let you know that becoming intimidated by opening up a textbook that addresses a foreign language is very normal. It is very normal. You're not expected to be able to read it very, very well at this point. So one thing that I encourage my students to do, and I encourage you to do as well, is go ahead and purchase a Greek New Testament. A Greek New Testament, not an interlinear. Now, I'm not against interlinears. In fact, I enjoy interlinears, where they do the translation for you, but purchase a single New Testament Greek text. The particular version of what you should get, I'm not particular. It doesn't matter, as long as it's not published by the Watchtower Society. Okay, there is a reason for that, because they've done some really strange things with the Greek New Testament. So don't do that, but go to your Protestant bookstore and pick up just a Greek New Testament that just has Greek in it. Now, here's what I want you to do with it. Take it everywhere you go. Take it to church. Take it to your Bible study. Take it to your desk at home. Open it up. Leave it open. And look at it as often as you can. Don't just leave it closed because you can't read it. All right? And the reason for that is because you're going to learn by being familiar. You're going to learn by being familiar. Don't open up the Greek New Testament and because you can't read the first sentence, you close it and say, well, I don't have it. I can't get it. No. Don't take that approach, because that is not how you learn English. The reason why we can communicate today in the English language is because you hear the words that I'm saying every day. What does that mean? That means you're familiar with it. You're used to hearing it. And the same thing is true with learning the Greek language. You just have to be familiar with it. Keep in mind also that a person from Greece coming to our country or learning English in the Greece country would have as much difficulty trying to understand English as you are with Greek. It is very common and very normal. And we have a lot of strange things about our language as well that we only know because you have to memorize them and you have to become familiar with it. And the same thing is true in the Greek language. There are some things that doesn't really fit the normal pattern, but once you're familiar with it, once you've seen it, been exposed to it, and you see it 5 to 10 times, you'll get it. Okay? And so that's the idea. So purchase a Greek New Testament, take it to church with you, take it to Sunday school, take it to your Bible study, and also your personal study at home. And don't just close it up because you can't read it, because that will change over time. You'll start becoming familiar. Let me just share a personal story of what I experienced in the last week. I've been studying the Hebrew language. I've been going through the same levels of frustration as my Greek students do, because you study for a while and you go, well, okay, I still don't have it. I still don't have it. Last Sunday we had a guest speaker at our church, and he preached from Joshua chapter 1. I turned to it in the Hebrew text, and I was surprised. I could read it. Most of the words I could read, but I didn't realize that until I forced myself that that's the only thing I have in front of me, so let me try to read it. And so you'll start experiencing the same thing in reading the Greek New Testament. Some of the books that are the easiest to learn quicker than any of the other books would be the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John is a good start, and also 1 John is also a good start. And then as we progress into 3rd and 4th semester of Greek, we'll start looking at some other books such as Romans and 1st and 2nd Thessalonians and that area. The thing that will excite you or encourage you in learning the Greek language is that it will start opening up the mind of the writer. He was writing in his native language, and as the more familiar you become with the native language, the more you start seeing the intent of what the author had when he was writing the words. And you'll start understanding the tenses and the structure that took place, and it will open up your understanding of what that chapter is about, or what that verse is about, what that book is about. It will start opening it up, and it will cause you to become even more familiar with the gospel message. Now, let's talk for a minute about the nature of the course. The nature of the course. And you have these notes on the website. Learning is not knowing. So many times, like I just mentioned, you'll open up a textbook and you go, well, I don't know that word, so I didn't learn it. You're not expected to know it yet. And what you do is that you look at these words and you looked at them 5 to 10 times. And until you get past the 10th time, don't give up on yourself. All right? So you repeat them to yourself 5 times. Repeat them to yourself 10 times. And then what's happening is that you're going through the process of learning. And just because you have it open and in front of you, you're learning and you don't even realize you're learning. The more familiar you are with it, the easier it is for your brain to recall what you've just learned. Like all learning, a new language, a student is not expected to know everything in a chapter when completed. In other words, we'll go through parts of chapter 1 today, parts of chapter 2 in the second video. And you'll finish the chapter and you'll go, well, I don't know that I know everything that's there. You're not expected to. You go back and look at it again. And then when we get up to lesson 6 and lesson 7 and lesson 10, you know what you should do? Go back to lesson 2. Go back to lesson 3. Go back to lesson 4. I'm using the same technique today in studying his grammatical text on biblical Hebrew. I'm around chapter 10 or 11 now. I find myself going back to chapter 3, chapter 4, and continuing to review it, because I discover that as I go to the next chapter and I'm learning some concepts and some things in that next chapter, that what I should have learned in chapter 3 started clicking with me. And you will experience the same thing. In fact, I just had a student who took his final for second semester Greek here at Covington, and he made the same statement to me. He said he went back to earlier chapters and looked at it, and he was surprised how well he knew those chapters today versus when we started going through them. And it's the very nature of the language. It's the very nature of learning the language. Now, every one of you who are watching this video, you can learn the Greek language. And I know that for a reason, because you already know English. So if you've already learned a language, you can learn another language. You're not an animal. You're a human being. So we're capable of learning another language. The only difference is you've got to be exposed to it. You've got to be exposed to it. And the more you're exposed to it, the more you will learn. Another point to keep in mind as we go through the class, there is no such thing as mispronunciation of words. Now, you might mispronounce it, but expect to do that. Okay. I have 4 grandchildren. Yeah, I know I don't look that old. You okay. All right. All right. Now, they speak English to me all the time. Some of the words they pronounce okay, and some of the words I really have to listen to figure out what they're talking about, because they're very young. They're at that age where they are just becoming familiar with the language, and they know just enough to what? Repeat what they've heard. And the same thing is true here in learning the Greek language. You're going to hear me pronounce a lot of Greek words. You're going to hear me read a lot of Greek. And the whole purpose of that is so that you become familiar. And then when you try to pronounce and when you try to read the Greek, there's a lot you're going to mispronounce. And the simple reason why is not because you are incapable of learning, it's simply because you haven't been exposed frequently to those words or to those structures, and that's the only reason. Learning means allowing oneself to receive constant exposure to the Greek language. Don't try to learn Greek by just listening to the video. Listen to the video. You can play it many times, but every day, open up the Greek New Testament. Every day, open up your textbook and just go through it and go through it. And you don't have to make it hard on yourself. You can just sit and enjoy and just read through it. And those areas which you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. Just get through it and then go back and review it again. The key, again, if I haven't emphasized it enough, is, as I've given to you in the notes here, is review, review, and then review again. Okay? That's the key. Eventually, you will know it to the point that you don't even have to look up the English equivalent. Okay? You just know it. You know, like when we posted John 3:16 on our website, there are some students who look at that and go, well, I've got to look up every word. I don't have to look up any of them. It's just natural. I read it. I don't even think English. Okay? I just read the Greek. And you will eventually get there as well. It'll be about the 3rd semester, but you'll get there as well. You'll look up John 3:16 and just read it. The mind needs rest to learn. The mind needs rest to learn. The important thing to keep in mind here is sometimes, because we live very active lives, and because we live very active lives, sometimes when we open up the Greek text or the Greek New Testament, we're tired. We're mentally tired. Now, if you're tired, you're not functioning at all level. And it's so easy at that point to become intimidated when you open up the Greek text and say, you know, I've worked all day, it's 10 o'clock at night, okay, I'll review a little bit of Greek before I go to bed tonight. And you look at it and you go, well, I didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
And so the next day you wake up discouraged and you don't open it at all because you felt intimidated the night before. I'll tell you, you need to expect that. You need to expect that. And sometimes you're going to open up and read a chapter and you're going to go, I just didn't learn anything. And the only reason you didn't learn anything, or you think you didn't learn anything, is because you're tired. All right, so I encourage you to take frequent breaks. I encourage you to walk away from it, think about some other things, do some other things, and then come back. And then when you're rested, open it up and go through it, and you'll be surprised how much easier it is when you're going through the alphabet or learning the vocabulary, how much easier it is if you have a rested mind. All right, I know you'll be successful. The reason I know that is because I'm speaking the English language and you are understanding me. Okay? You already know a language. Do not, as you go through the textbook and you're learning the language, do not become intimidated when you need to look at the English frequently. It's so easy to do that, and so many students will do that. They'll start trying to read the Greek first, and they'll become intimidated and say, well, I can't learn it. You know, no. I encourage you, and the author lays it out that way. The English is translated to the right, the Greek is to the left, and if you need to look over to the right and see the English first and then read the Greek, that's fine. If you want to read the English and then the Greek and then go back and read the English again, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Because the more frequently you do it, you'll reach a stage, and I know it's kind of difficult to comprehend at this point, but you'll reach a stage where looking at the English becomes an inconvenience. What's the English doing there? I already know it. Okay, and that will happen eventually. Okay, and in the class, in this session, which is online, what we will be doing, I won't be doing any writing on the chalkboard or anything like that. I would expect you to have the textbook in front of you, and just like I teach the class here at the seminary, we will go through each chapter in detail. I will read a lot of things to you. I will read the Greek, I'll read the translation. And I would need for you, after listening to the video, to go back and try to repeat and do the same thing on your own. The class will be structured with 2 exams. There will be a midterm exam after lesson 6 or chapter 6, which a midterm will be expected at that time. It is what I would view as a simplistic midterm. It's not going to be complicated at all. The purpose of the midterm is to also continue to learn. All right. So the way that I grade midterms and also finals is I look at how you responded on the midterm to see if you've got it or if you can get it. Okay. If you've given me enough to give me the idea that you can get it, then I don't mark off anywhere near as much as if I think you just don't have it at all. All right. So my grading is on the positive side. Does the student show ability to learn? And so my grading is pretty easy. But don't take that to mean that you don't have to learn it. You do have to learn it, and you need to learn it for your own good. But I view midterms, taking the exam, as an examination time, not only for me, but for you to determine how much you really know and don't know. And also the final that way. The final is a little bit different in that it's a little bit more structured, it's a little bit more difficult. I think over the last 2 semesters here, I've given about 3 exams which are relatively simple, and then the final that was taken this last time was much more structured, and I was looking for much more conceptual depth from the student. And so that was to introduce them to the idea that they are about to go into intermediate Greek, and intermediate Greek takes on a new nature. By that time you will know enough Greek grammar so that we can get really serious with the language, and if you know it at that point, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Focus on Let me also mention to you that there is a CD that comes with this textbook. It is located in the back of the textbook. There. Take it out. Listen to John Dobson read Greek to you. Excellent. You're not only hearing it from me, and you're hearing it from him. Expect some of his pronunciation to be different from mine because he is British. I am Southern American, so there's a different accent. Okay? And so that will be the reason why you'll see that his pronunciation of some words may be a little different than mine. But even the author himself will tell you that. Okay.
You can listen to them on your phone too.
Oh, you can?
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
You can
And also, yeah, I have some students here and they said you could listen to him on the phone as well.
Mm-hmm.
So your phone goes everywhere you go. And so you can listen to it on the phone as well. I want you to focus on the vocabulary as we go through each chapter. You'll see it under the subject title of words. And so you need to build the vocabulary. The goal, the overall goal of the class, the 4 semesters, the Introduction to Biblical Greek, and also the intermediate class, is that by the time you finish the 4th semester of Greek language, you're able to read every word in the New Testament that's used 50 times or more. You'll probably be able to read more than that. But every word that is used 50 times or more frequently, you'll be able to read the New Testament that way. And it will make your Bible study a lot more effective and a lot more comfortable. So building your vocabulary is essential. All right. I mentioned that. I mentioned some of these things on my notes already. Use every occasion to expose yourself to the Greek in life and church, and I mentioned that earlier. You know, some of these notes apply to a classroom situation and not online here, so I may mention to my students that I do not practice intimidating any student. If you make a mistake, I'm not going to laugh at you or anything like that because you're learning. And I cannot mock somebody for learning. So if you mispronounce something or get something wrong, that's okay because we're learning. Okay. Let's see. Here are some concluding remarks as far as the culture of the class is concerned. The more Greek you know, the less you will flaunt your knowledge of Greek. Yeah, and that's true in about any subject. The more you know about that subject, the more you realize you don't know. And when that reality hits, then you're less likely to go out and brag about what you know. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the more Greek you know, the less you're going to flaunt it. And there's a reason for that. The true Greek student, one who knows Greek really well, is someone who understands the Greek New Testament well enough so that they can make it clear in English. So that they're conveying over to the audience, over to the student, what this passage really means from the Greek text because they know it so well. Eventually, this is the last point here, eventually this class will cause much appreciation for what a passage is really teaching and sharing. I wish I could share some of the testimonies from our first semester and our second semester that we had here this last fall and last winter of how it opened the eyes of these different passages that were touched on, that we translated. Eventually, your responsibility is to know Greek well enough to explain what it really means in English. All right, at this time, let's take our textbook, which is Learn New Testament Greek, and let's open up to the table of contents. Now, I know what the first impression is that you're going to have, and you're going to go, oh my goodness, I'm already lost. because very little of the table of contents is in English. It's in Greek. And so he does this on purpose so that you start looking at it and you get familiar with it right from the beginning. You don't know the alphabet yet, so everything looks like Greek to you. If it helps you at all, it looks like Greek to me as well. Okay. All right. Now you notice that we'll be covering the first 11 lessons, or the first 12 lessons, or the first 12 chapters in this semester. Now notice the table of contents. It goes to about 52 chapters. 52 chapters. So roughly anywhere from 12 to 13 lessons per semester, and this covers a 2-year course. So it'll be four semesters. All right, and so as you flip back to the table of contents, looking at the preface or the introduction, you'll notice some letters there that look like A, B, and Y. These are called A, B, and G. In the Greek language, they are called alpha, beta, gamma. You may already be familiar with alpha, beta, gamma. The thing that I want you to notice here is look how familiar alpha is to us. It's really not a letter you got to learn. It looks just like an A. Look at beta. Beta looks just like a B. All right. Now we go to the next one. You got to learn this one because it's not Y. It's G. All right. So you've heard the expression often in our English language that do you know your ABCs? In the Greek, we ask ourselves, do we know the ABGs? Okay. All right. So ABGs, do we know their alpha, beta, gamma? Now the author, for his own reason, and it's a good reason, he doesn't really start calling these by their letter names until about lesson 16, which would put you in the second semester before the textbook would start referring to these letters as alpha, beta, gamma. Up until that point, he just wants you to know what the English equivalent letter is so that you start recognizing them. This is different from a lot of other textbooks. This is different from a lot of other Greek courses that you would take in other colleges and seminaries. But one thing I want to communicate to you, having been through years of the Greek language, none of you have to think that you're getting less Greek here than what you would at another college or university. In fact, I think the tendency is that you're getting more because of his method of teaching the language. Yeah, just because you're taking a different approach doesn't mean that you're getting less. In fact, I would argue that you're probably getting more. All right, so when you look at lesson 1, there's the ABG. The G looks like a Y, but it's the G. Learning the letters is what lesson 1 is all about, and we'll touch on that in just a few moments. And then lesson 2, in the beginning, Einarche. And I will, by habit, I will read the Greek to you, and then I know that when you look at this and you go, okay, I can read in the beginning, but I can't read Einarche. And that's pretty normal at this stage. The important thing in this first lesson is that you hear it. Not that you learn it, but that you hear it. Learning will come later. And then you have the Greek word for is and for was, which is estein and ain. Estein and ain. And I know that some of you are looking at that and going, well, how did he get estein out of that? It will be, you'll become quite familiar with that a little bit later. And how did I get ain out of was? And that you will also become familiar a little bit in the near future. So you have the word is and was that's presented here in lesson 3. So we'll learn how to do that in Greek. All right. Now notice what he's doing here. He's taking the first verse of John chapter 1, verse 1, and slowly but surely translating it for you. In the beginning was, and then you come down to lesson 4, Lego. I am saying, or I say. I am saying, or I say. It's lego. All right, and then you have lego, which is use the I am or I am saying, and then legomene, which is we are saying. And what the author's doing here is he's showing you, look at the endings of the word. The endings of the word will give you whether it's I or we. Again, you don't really need to know that at this point. What you need to do is just hear me say it. Okay? So there's lego, and then lesson 5 is legomen. Legomen. And then you have logos, and logos, some of you may already know, is the Greek word for word. So in the beginning was what? Word. The word. So that's what he's doing here. And then you have hologos, the little O in front of it is the article the. Okay. The word. And then in lesson 7 you have autos, which is he, or this one, he. And then you have hutos, which is this, or this one, and we will learn later that it can also be translated he. We had a lot of fun with that one in our last semester, and I think you will enjoy it too when we get to lesson 7. And then you have introduction of a new form in lesson 8, which is legon, and then hologon, which is the person saying, the person saying. And then in lesson 9, you have cardia, the heart, and hekardia, which is the heart. And then in lesson 10, you got hemes, which is we, or humes, which is you, and has, which is who. Okay? And so what he's doing here is he's slowly introducing you to different forms of nouns, and he's also introducing you to personal pronouns in lesson 10. And then you got has ein lege, which is translated whoever says, and that's a structure that you'll learn. And then you got ein lege, which is if he says, and you got hina lege, which is so that he may say, and legomen, which is let us say. Here again, you're not expected to fully understand what I'm saying. The important thing in this first lesson is that you hear it. You look at it and you hear it. You look at some of these words and you go, I can't even begin because I don't know the alphabet yet. But that will change. This is your introductory course into a new language. And so you've got, and in lesson 12, which is ergon, a work. And then you've got ta ergon, the work. And then you've got ha, he, and to, which are the articles in the Greek language. And we will learn later and emphasize that knowing the article is critical. The different forms of the word the. As opposed to English, we only have one word for the. In the Greek, you have a lot of words for the, or different forms. And so in order to understand the words that the article the is modifying or pointing out, the structure of the article the will give you a clue on how that noun is used in the sentence, and that's the reason why it's important. But we'll go over that a lot more in detail when we get into the later lessons. So you see the lessons 1 through 12, and that's what we're going to cover in this semester. Now what I will do is, just because it's important to get familiar with it, we will finish the rest of the table of contents, but we'll do it quickly. We're going to do it quickly for one reason again, so that you hear it, not that you're going to learn it. But this is where we're going with the table of contents. All right, so beginning in 13 is poieo, or poio, I do or I make. And then you have elegan, which is he was saying, or used to say. Epoie, he was doing, or he used to do. And then in lesson 16, you have the introduction to the uppercase letters that is presented, and it is at lesson 16 that the author expects you to know the names of the letters. Up until that point, it's just recognition. Most of the Greek letters you already know, just simply because you know English. Why? Because 64% of the English language came from the Greek language. 64%. All right, so you already know a lot more Greek than you realize you know. All right, so you have from alpha to omega, which is the first Greek letter to the end Greek letter. And then in lesson 17, you have pros, ace, ain, ek, apo, and erkete. Okay, he comes, he goes. And then in lesson 18, you have lagain, lagain. Lesson 19, you have lagon, lagusa, lagon, which is saying. And then introduction to lessons 20 through 25 is poiesis, poieses, having gone, epoisa, I did, I made, and igropsa. Igropsa is I wrote or I did write. All right. All right, 22, balon, balon, having thrown. Elthon, having gone. Ebolon, I threw. Era, which is I picked up. Estheo means I am eating. Ephagon, I ate. Notice the marked difference between the, well, I can't get into all that at this point, but yeah, I will. Estheo, I am eating, which is present tense, and ephagon, which is past tense of eating. Notice how much different it is. All right, those are the things that we'll learn. Lagain and apane, or I should say apane. And then kanabontus, kanabontantes, altu, and kanabantos, altu. He was coming down. He had come down. Akuso, I will hear. Balo, I will throw. Questions, how do you introduce a question in Greek? It's tis and tai. Okay? And then anthropos, agathos. Anthropos, agathos, which is a good man. All right? And hoi hageo, which is the saints. Genomai, which is I become. Genominos, which is having become. Poiesai, which is to do. Ekbalain, to throw out. Baptizomai, which is to baptize. Ebaptizmain, which is I was baptized. Ebaptisthein, which I was baptized. Baptistes, having been baptized. So you're starting to see how baptized sounds like baptized. Okay, so it's very similar to English. Pistuoka, gegroptai, which is pistuoka means I have trusted. I have trusted. Gegroptai means I have written. Oida means I know. Again, I know that you're not learning this, but it's important that you are hearing it and looking at it. Tithemi, I am putting. Tithes, putting. Thes, having put. And then let's go down to lesson 35. Lesson 35, kalos means good. Kalos again, well. Ace, duo, trace. Ace, duo, trace. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hina, so that. Okay. Hina, poise. And then hina, domen. And then lesson 37, ha kurios, the Lord. Ton lagon, tain cardian. And he starts introducing more and more Greek grammar at this point. And then in lesson 38, hoste, and then tu legu tes cardias, which is the genitive case, and then tuta poison, do this. All right, it's introducing the concept of command at this point. And then me glypsis, and then me clay, which is do not weep. All right, and then to lego, and then te cardia, which is the heart, and the word and the heart. All right, and then a emeriste, it has been divided, and an eon mariste, which is it should be divided. All right, and then very quickly, 44 through 52, I'm just going to read this without a comment. Dikeos, diakasune, adikia, nipto, niptomai, and then the fun of translating Romans 1 through 7, apis, hote, estei, and then genato, didoke, hina hakara human he peplore mina, and then agamen a tuathan. All right, so that's the table of contents, and that's where we're going over the next 4 semesters. Again, we will cover lessons 1 through 12 in this class. Thank you.